Morning, Erica. How are you?
Morning, Roberto. I'm good. How are you doing?
Talk first. Let's start with who you are and the district you're running in.
Sure. Erycka Montoya, first generation here, Colombian American. I am running for District 21, which encompasses Corona, East Elmhurst, Jackson Heights, and LeFrak City. Um,
Why?
yeah.
Why?
Why? The first time I ever was prompted to think about running was after Trump's first election, and the great disappointment, the heartbreak, but thinking about representation, how much it matters, and who's making decisions, right? And who has power over policy and decisions that affect our everyday lives. I'd also been working in an organization where I had been thinking a lot about about the culture in an organization and that where that stems from leadership and who's making decisions once again. This district has was the epicenter of the epicenter during the pandemic. It was already a high needs area that had experienced a lot of disinvestment or lack of care that it deserves. And then with the pandemic, and we're feeling that we're still reeling from the pandemic and we're still in many ways recovering from that. So really feeling that we need leadership that sees that, understands that, that's from the district, that really understands the needs of its neighbors. And that's why I'm running.
Talk about some of the endorsements you have so far.
Let's see. We have RWDSU, 1199, 32BJ, Working Families Party, Make the Road. Uh, some women's groups. We've got New Majority, Honor's Legacy. I may be missing a couple here.
How about
Think
electeds?
through. Electives. So right now, Assembly members Jessica Gonzalez Rojas and Catalina Cruz have been great champions. And we've got a few more, but we haven't rolled it out publicly.
What about the Queen's Democratic Party? What do you have you had conversations with them, or have they made a
We,
decision yet?
I mean, they have, right? They've endorsed, um, Queens Democrats has endorsed Yana. So,
Okay, the district
uh,
leader. Okay.
mhm,
How
yeah.
about current council member Moya? Has he endorsed?
Not that I know of. He's been pretty quiet. So,
All right, let's talk about some of the things happening in that district of prominence. Casino, are you for or against?
look, the casino at this point is not at the city level, right? This is at the state level, and then the licensing commission will have to make decisions if if the park alienation bill goes through and what that happens. So it's not at the city level. And the way I see it, look, if this project comes here to the district, as city council member, my job will be to make sure that it brings the most benefits that the Metropolitan Park has proposed, making sure that it's union built. So making sure that we keep them accountable to that. Should the project come, that it is built by union, that it is securing, long-term jobs as well with benefits. And that's what I'll be focused on and making sure that they're making the investments that they have asked about. I know most recently there's a proposal for some affordable housing as well. And so making sure that they're seeking to that and holding them accountable to that will be my job should that project come.
Roosevelt Avenue. What will you do to address the concerns, quality of life concerns on Roosevelt Avenue?
I mean, there's a number of concerns in that, between both the sex trafficking, the abundance of street vendors, as well as sanitation issues. So I think, Operation Roosevelt, while it is a step, in the right direction in regards to the enforcement and really paying attention to what needs to be done and attacking sex trafficking, it is not enough and it's not complete. It's not a complete solution because also, right, if you've got vulnerable folks that are there against their will in this work, what happens to them afterwards, right? How are we making sure that we're providing services, we're addressing the trauma, that they have other pathways to work? So in those ways, it's not complete. Sanitation is a big problem. It's a very busy corridor, right? And we know this, so we know that we need to invest more in that. And then with street vendors, making sure that we can do some more regulation so that folks are doing, that are doing preparing foods are doing so thinking about health. But we also know that it's too much and that other things need to be addressed. There's also infrastructural issues around Roosevelt Avenue. It's a very low train line, which means that there's a lot going on. It's dark there, right? There's a reason why so much of that activity happens on Roosevelt Avenue and not 37th Avenue, right? So like those infrastructural things are also important as we think about what safety looks like.
There's some street vendor legislation now in front of the council. What are your thoughts on the on the current legislation? And the reason
Well,
I ask is because, as by 104th Street, there's a lot of street vending activity up and down the Roosevelt Avenue corridor. What are your thoughts on the legislation? Are you in support of it? Do you think it needs to be tweaked?
I won't say that I know all the details or they're not all coming to mind, but I mostly support what I've read and what I recall now from reading, do support because we do need to expand the licensing program, right? And make sure, with the plaza, once with the support of QEDC, right, they were been able to do education around how to vend, how to, safety, food safety, health and food safety. They've also made sure, the vendors make sure to clean up their plaza, right? Like have the education, feel empowered to do that, are doing it in such a way that there's a schedule, right? That it's like clear what they're doing. And I think being able to find more ways of doing that is critical. Of course, that doesn't mean that we open up the licensing program and that everyone gets to have it. We have to have some limits, and I understand that. But we haven't, the licensing program has been closed for over 20 years. I mean, when I first worked in constituent services, it was an issue, and it's only gotten worse. So we definitely need to be able to expand the licensing program.
Question: What are your thoughts on what's your position on policing in terms of bail, in terms of discovery, and some of the stuff being discussed now? And the reason I mentioned that, some people think that low level crime and things are the reason why the city, from shoplifting, et cetera, are some of the issues that people bring up when they think about how they don't feel safe in New York City.
Sure.
Or what's your posture on that?
I mean, first we need to address the drivers of crime, right? We know that crime goes up when people feel economic insecurity, when they don't have secure and safe affordable housing, right? When you don't know where you're sleeping, when you don't know if you can afford the food. When I'm there knocking on doors, it is always what comes up with folks as like the top issues, um, is is around affordability and public safety, and they go hand in hand, right? So like being able to address the true drivers of crime is really important. And that also means that people need access to work, that making sure that we're providing opportunities for those that want to work to be able to find work, to get the skills that they need. So though I would say that that is really critical in order to be able to really address safety in a holistic way and in a way that has lasting results, that makes people proud of the neighborhoods that they live in. Um, yeah, so those are the first things that come to mind. And I get it. I get the stuff around the shoplifting, around like the concerns that people have and as they're feeling that on their day to day or seeing reports of it. And so making sure that we are addressing the drivers, I think is critical.
Erica, where are you in terms of the money race?
So oh God, I'm not gonna remember the exact amount, but we're on our way to be able to max out. We still have some money to raise in order to like max out on matching funds, but we feel pretty good about it. We'll have an event on the 29th of the end of this month. We have our filing coming up in Monday. Um, but yeah, we feel pretty good about being able to max out on matching funds.
Are you in the top three in terms of candidates, in terms of money? Would you say?
Yes, I mean yes. Yep.
What are your thoughts on mental health, and how what are some of your plans on addressing that? Because going back to quality of life, you
Yes.
have Elmhurst Hospital
Mm-hmm.
nearby. Not sure if that's Council Member Krishnan or Moya, but it's right there, and it's part of the ecosystem in Western Queens. What are your thoughts around mental health and providing people that need help with wraparound services, and what are some of your plans around that? Because that's also what people say contributes to a lot of the stuff happening on the trains is people that need long term care, being out there not getting the support that they need.
Absolutely. I agree with that. It is both about people that need long-term care, but it's also about all of us being able to take better care of our mental health, right? Like when we talk about it in such a way where we're just thinking of people in crisis, but the idea is how are we addressing the mental health of all of us so that we don't get to that crisis moment, right? Because it's not always the person that looks maybe not okay or that is unhoused and is sleeping on a subway that's a threat. It may make people uncomfortable. I have not often found that to be the threat. Sometimes it's someone who just snaps in a moment, where we've seen that in reports. And so investing in mental health is really critical. The way we talk about it, I know in schools there's a lot around like social emotional regulation that happens. My kids are in elementary school, and they have their morning meetings where they talk about their feelings, and I think that is actually really critical and important language, because they're learning it young. Sometimes they bring it back home and are able to talk to their parents about it. And in a district where you are growing up with, where a lot of folks that have migrated here, a lot of trauma, a lot of people are dealing with trauma. And when we don't deal with it, when we don't have spaces to talk about it, when we don't create those community spaces, right, people don't know, right? Like, I come from a mother who immigrated from Colombia, who had to leave behind her oldest daughter for quite some time. My sister and I didn't live together until we were 5 and 8. And there are things that she never quite talked about, right? And that I didn't have an opportunity to discuss until I was an adult and recognized some things. And we carry that with us, right? So all of us do in different ways. So I think mental health is really critical, that we support those services, that we see where that's needed. And for example, even like when we were talking about the sex trafficking, these folks have gone through trauma as well. How are they going to adapt, adjust, and do other work, right, is important. So yes, Elmhurst Hospital is not directly in the district, but it very much serves the district. And so making services available. I remember when I wanted to see a therapist because of the insurance I had, it was like a year, like the wait list was over 6 months, right? And so we need to make sure that folks are able to access care when they need it, and make it easier to be able to access care. Obviously break the stigma around it, and be able to present mental health as something that is for all of us, right? For all of us to be taking care of ourselves and be better about our own emotional regulation, right? And it happens to all of us. So all of those parents, right, when we lose it with our kids or we yell, right, it's because in that moment, the stresses that we are feeling, and when we're not dealing with in other ways, means that's where we lose our temper and such. So mental health is for all of us.
Erycka, who's running your campaign? Who's doing the field and who's managing it? What consultants are you working with?
So working with Trip Yang Strategies and North Shore Strategies.
Now let's wrap this up, because I know you got a campaign to run. Um, what's been your best day on the trail? Best day.
Oh man, you know what? I would just say this past Saturday, I mean, there's been others, but like this past Saturday was actually really great. Did some, was at Corona Plaza talking to folks, and kids were making cards. We had a table where kids were making like Mother's Day cards, and also some jellyfish little activity that we had. And then was at the plaza where there was events going on in Corona Plaza, and seeing it activated, seeing people dancing, singing, celebrating. Today's Paraguay's Independence Day, and there was a group there from performing, folkloric dances from Paraguay. That was incredible. Someone singing. And so seeing that space activated, and the plaza being used the way it's meant to be, and then went and knocked doors, and, had some Peruvian food at a local restaurant. So I would say that was a really, and because it was so recent, was really great, just having all of those moments and
Wor-
really great
wor-
conversations
Now,
with folks.
worst day so far.
Oh man, worst day? Um, I can't think of a specific day, but probably a day where like maybe didn't collect as many signatures, or like knocked and nobody was home, was probably like, one of those that felt like,
What
like,
what
how are we going to get there?
what are the top three things you hear from people when you knock on their door? Their three biggest
Sure.
concerns.
Three biggest concerns: affordability, public safety, and concerns about this administration, whether it is concerns around immigration or just the cuts to funding to critical programs like, Head Start, and just all the chaos that often comes from those executive orders, all of that. Those I would say are the top three.
All right, let's wrap this up. Why should I vote for Erycka Montoya if
born
I
and
could
raised
vote?
here Born and raised here, raising my two kids here, so I'm invested in making sure that the community that I love, that raised me, only improves, right? That it is one that people feel a lot of pride in. So personally invested in that way, and also have the experience, right? Understand the experiences of my neighbors, but also have the experience in the work that I've done in government, in knowing how it works, and being able to day one be able to step up, have an office open that understands the critical need for constituent services, and that has a relationship with the city agencies that provide services, and being able to serve the community on day one.
Erica, thank you so much and continued success to you and all the best in your race, okay?
Thank you.